Okay?
Yep.
Okay, so my name is David Smith. I have been appointed, or what have you, to be the MC today. And as is always at Woodland Pond, we have an announcement to make about the evacuation policy. We only have one person here who hasn't heard it before, so you'll have to pass the test. When the fire alarm is activated, please remain in the pack until the fire department and/or representative from Woodland Pond has given the all clear or instructions to evacuate. Do not call the concierge desk. If evacuation is determined, the event facilitator will initiate the evacuation as follows. Please exit the room immediately using either the two sets of double doors and immediately clear the hallway between the pool and tank. First to evacuate should be any residents walking unassisted or with a cane. All residents who have a walker, wheelchair, or electric cart should evacuate last with assistance. Once the room is cleared, the facilitator of the meeting will shut both sets of double doors and restore cleared status to concierge. Anybody who has a cell phone, please make sure that it's turned off. Thank you. Anybody who has a hearing aid, make sure it's turned on. Since this is a patriotic themed function, please rise if you're able. Stand, face the flag as we salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You can be seated. So on April 9th this year, we had Honor Flight 25, Hudson Valley Honor Flight 25. The board member here is going to tell you all about the history of Honor Flight and Hudson Valley Honor Flight. But before we get started with that, I'd like to introduce the four veterans who flew that day. Stand, please. Jack Levy, Drew Muller, Newt Ruffing, Howard Stutzman. Three of these fellows are lucky enough to have their... Three of these fellows, please stand. Please remain standing. Three of these fellows are lucky enough to be accompanied today by their spouses. Lucy, Sarah, Alice, please stand. In addition, we have one of the people in the audience was a guardian that day. Tom Ruffing, would you please stand as well? So, these are all people who are very important to the United States. We also have in the audience, and as residents of Woodland Pond, several people who were on previous honor flights. If you fellows would like to stand also, we have, these are alphabetical. John Frank Casey, Lauren Hiller, did Lauren come today? Al Hoffman, Patrick Patrick, Robert Richter, I don't see him. And
Yes, Robert.
oh, thank you for coming. He said to me, if he's having a good day, he'd be here. So thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Having a good day.
And Carl Yetkins, Carl Neely. In addition, and as is shown in the photographs up here, we have some people who are deceased who had attended in the past: Mr. Bishop, Jay Bishop, Gene Gorell, and Paul Lurie. So remember them too. Now, you may be seated. As Bill gives his talk, I want you to think of all the veterans you knew or know. Think of your brothers and your husbands, and sons and fathers, uncles and friends. Because this Honor Flight program is for all veterans. Bill? You want more of an introduction?
All veterans are invited. It doesn't matter if you saw combat or not. If you served, you raise your right hand, ready to write the blank check, you're invited to join us.
Would you like the microphone now on the podium?
Sure. Can your music go on?
Turn off the CD.
Okay, so can you all hear me? Yeah. Stunning. You all saw the jacket? Yeah. Well, that's the end of that. That was a good show, wasn't it, the jacket? All right, so I'm a board member. I'm actually a charter board member. I was on flight number 1, 3, 5, 7. I lost count, but I've done a lot of stuff. is the most rewarding thing I've ever done, because we owe these guys a debt that we can never repay. Particularly the World War II guys. How many World War II guys we got here? One. One?
Carl was in the room.
Captain over here. There's a captain over here who brought his uniform. I don't know, mine shrunk, I don't know what happened to his. So I don't read bullets, aren't you glad to hear that? So you can read what we do. We take the Korean guys, World War II guys, ceremony, and we fly them home, and there may be surprises on the plane. I already know about that anyway. So I've been asked to shorten this to 5 minutes, so I'm gonna do my best. It's probably unlikely. But so we always take a group picture in front of the Lincoln. And I got another shot coming for when we have a special group picture you'll see in a minute. Boy, that's loud. So the Honor Flight Network is a national organization. Flight number 1, 2005, yada, yada, yada. And Hudson Valley chapter began in 2011. And the guy whose box is outlined in black was passed, Steve McCauley. He came to visit me at one of my stores, and he wanted $50 for a bus to take veterans to DC. And when Senator Larkin got involved, it became an honor flight instead of an honor bus. Because Larkin got Shockwave involved to help us, and thank goodness they did. So we're up at mission 26, 2 more in the fall. It's free to vets, 400 for guardians. And the asterisk means if you want to be a guardian, or you have a child or something who's a guardian, and $400 is a stretch, come see us. My cards are on a table outside. We'll find a way to get you a sponsor. So the group picture, sometimes we take veterans who are very ill. This guy had Parkinson's and a variety of other illnesses. I'm not even sure what they were, but he wanted to stand. He was in a wheelchair, but he wanted to stand for the group photo. So we helped him do it. That's one of my favorite pictures. Who's paying for this? I gotta change that. It says 100,000. This year it's $1.25. And the fall flights are going to go up dramatically because of the price of fuel. So we'll take donations from anybody, volunteers, but down at the bottom it says especially ShopRite. They really have done us proud. So that's a view, that's a shot from the plane. They get the water cannon. Those water cannons are reserved for honor flights and retiring pilots. You can read that. I assume that you can read. It's a little collage from Stuart. Each veteran has a guardian, family members. We like to have veterans. You probably all know we have medical staff on each ship already. And that 1,500 should be over 2,000. I know, typo. You got not laugh when I type. And the police escorts are coming back. They were stopped for staffing reasons on the flight. You folks went back, but they're coming back in the fall. This is my favorite. Why have I shown you a photograph of a politician? That's Rob Astorino, who's running for governor. And so why did I show you a photograph of a politician? To remind myself to tell you about the accomplishment as a board member that I'm pretty much most proud of. We had some abuses by politicians who took the mic, demanded the microphone, and then talked for 20 minutes about themselves. So I proposed that we have a moratorium. So after that moratorium was voted on, we now do not allow politicians to speak at our send-off ceremony. I'll wait for the applause on that one. It doesn't matter what party you're in, you just can't have the mic.
well, let's just stand there and look pretty, but no yakety yakety. So, well, with the exception of Bill Larkin, we would let him do anything he wanted to. So there were some interesting honorees that the Buffalo Soldier. You all know what a Buffalo Soldier is? Aha. Until Harry Truman passed a resolution preventing it, the armed forces were all segregated. On the submarines, African Americans could only serve food. They couldn't load torpedoes or anything. There was Buffalo Soldiers who were African American only companies, platoons. There were no battalions of them, but there were companies and platoons of them. In fact, Bill Larkin commanded a Buffalo Soldier group, and he said they were the toughest fighters he'd ever seen. So we had a Buffalo Soldier who placed a wreath at the tomb of the unknown. Terrific guy, I knew him pretty well. And I took a picture of him at Stewart with President Obama. And Obama told him, "I'm standing on your shoulders." And I thought that was nice of Obama to say. So that's what Buffalo Soldiers are about. Frank Field, Tuskegee Airmen, those guys were also fabulous. The GI who helped liberate Dachau, I'll tell you that story one day if I have a little extra time. There's the water cannons again. There's the inside of the plane. Now, I don't know if you can see it. You saw Frank Field, the celebrity weaponman, that's his daughter-in-law. She's married to Storm Field. You all know Frank Field? Yeah, everybody knows. Well, one day Buzz Aldrin showed up. That was pretty cool. And he said that to every one of our vets who got off the plane, and every honor flight that came in that day. He shook a lot of hands. Hi, I'm Buzz Aldrin. Now, how many guys can say this? I'm Buzz Aldrin, West Point, Korea, and the moon. Are you kidding? That's pretty good. How many people? So that's the World War II memorial. Anything of the Guard. Somebody asked me earlier, I think it was you, sir. See, that's M14, 7.62 millimeter, NATO round, 51 millimeters long. And you know what they're up to, they're changing it. He's having his rifle inspected, and God help him if there's any dirt in that rifle. So that's a wonderful thing. We're getting near the end. I want to read you what it says on this because the optics are not so good. Freedom Wall homes 4,048 gold stars. Each star represents 100 American personnel who died or are still missing in the war. The 405,399 American dead missing from World War II are second only to the losses in the Civil War. It was the price of freedom, ladies and gentlemen. That's the welcome home in Westchester. And I'm done with that. So you asked for 5 minutes, you got about 5. Now, do I have time
Yes, you want
to show the movie? Good, because I'm in it.
I get that.
I've had a good life in my life, but I want to tell you something. Sometimes a day comes along that's better than all the rest in the whole world. And I appreciate everything you and your helpers have done. I think you made a fantastic deal out of everything. Thanks, thanks, thanks.
powerful things I heard was when one of the guardians stood up in our dinner and he said, my father left things at that memorial that he's been carrying around for his whole life. That's powerful. That's the long-term impact of what we do.
that's Don Kelly makes these things. The guy who was rubbing the head of the radio announcer, that's the guy who does these videos. So, did you say your name was for Cassie?
Yeah,
You and I went to a Mets game together.
we did, yeah.
on
You know, you told me about the honor flight years ago
the bus, I told you.
on the bus. And, and then I went in
Good,
2017.
good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
You know?
There are applications on the table outside. My card is on the table outside. And my dog's name is Max. What else do you need to know about?
He has applications for folks who could volunteer as guardians, or who want to go on an honor flight. So there's.
Any questions, call me, Glenn.
Ladies
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I have a question. Is this just a Hudson Valley thing?
No, it's nationwide,
Okay,
but we're the Hudson Valley chapter.
okay.
And we have a pretty good reputation nationwide as one of the better chapters, primarily because I'm so good looking. You believe that one?
She's foolproof. When on our trip down there, we met people and guardians from other flights. So it was very active that particular day we were there. I'm going to ask you to hold questions for Bill until the end. We got some other things to do, and then you can ask questions of Bill or our honorees. So right now,
Thank you, I'm going for a beer.
pub opens at 3:30. My refrigerator's open. So we are going to now do the anthems for the four branches of the armed forces. We are lucky to have Gretchen accompany us. We are not going to have me sing into the microphone. You have the words in your program. If you are of a mind and wish to, please stand when you hear your anthem or the anthem of your. Thank you, John. An anthem of someone who's near and dear to you. We're going to sing in the order in the program. So, Gretchen, and I'm turning this microphone off.
Our faith, our glory,
ad-lib part of the show, where I have some more remarks to make on about 30 different slides that were put together by some amateur photographers, the Guardians who went on this slide, myself, Tom, Jeff, I wanted to say Stan, and Katie. We Guardians kind of got together, decided to take some pictures, hopefully assemble them. When we got back here, Connor almost volunteered, but he was recruited. And thank you very much. So, Bill showed you a lot of what I'm going to show you, some generic places with generic backgrounds, but our guys are in these pictures, so they're special to us. I have some small things to say about that, but could we start now, Connor? Is the lighting okay for everybody? Yeah. Okay, and I know this is loud, so I'll stand back. Okay, so here we are at ShopRite, first thing in the morning. It is about 5 o'clock a.m. ShopRite's there with the coffee urns, with the donuts, with the bagels, with the smiles. One of the nice young ladies volunteered to take a picture of the four of us who wrote together. You can see where I'm not identifying. Just some more of the ShopRite stuff. This is Sergeant Muller on the bus getting ready to go. A couple of pictures on the bus. All smiles, all smiles. I want you to take note of the hats on Howie and the guy behind him. They're Navy guys. These Navy guys have these hats, and they have their boat insignia on them, a code number or something. Two guys, they could be 50 yards away. They see these hats, they go right for each other. They want to talk about their experiences. An instant bonding. They may have served 10,000 miles away and 20 years apart, but they got something in common. There's some kind of bond about the Navy guys. Army guys, not so much, at least my experience. But the Navy guys, they got to talk. We left from ShopRite parking lot. We had a motorcycle escort that must have been a half a mile long. We had fire trucks. We had fire trucks with hoses. This is just a scene of that. I'm not even sure which of our photographers took that, but this kind of matches what one of you had. You had the feeling that the whole community was out there. Kids, adults, everybody. And so I want to thank Art. Raphael is not here today. He brought a carload of people down to see us off, and we'll show the pictures later. But these are things that we couldn't see from inside the buses. The crowd at the airport gets to view and feel. So we have a marching band. We have a bagpipe band. More in the bagpipe. Just Jack getting off the bus. In the background, you see handmade signs. Hand-painted signs, handmade signs, people waving, making noise. Thank you. This is a really good shot of what some of the crowd is like on the left-hand side. Unfortunately, because of COVID, the crowd was necessarily reduced to less than what some of those pictures showed. But nevertheless, the feeling that goes through the audience and through the participants is really spectacular for this kind of thing. There's Howard getting off the bus with his son. And that is the miracle of genetics. Did you see one of their faces? It's the same face. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. So there's a group that came down to see us off. Lucy, nice smile there. John, Taylor, Lucy, Sharon. Artie must have taken that picture. Now Artie gets in the picture with John. It's a nice shot. And then they went out to breakfast. They left us. I hope you had a good time. And I do thank Artie, who was not here, for bringing you all down. That was nice. So now we're inside the airport, getting ready for the ceremony, the send-off ceremony. I think that's the Reagan airport instead of Stewart, but so be it.
That's the new Stewart.
The new Stewart, yeah, that's what's going to happen. Go ahead. This was the 25th anniversary of, this is the 25th flight, I beg your pardon, the 25th flight. And I didn't notice until I reviewed the pictures this morning. You had talked about one of the founders of Hudson Valley Honor Flight being Steve Nicola. That's his family. It's his son, his fiance, his mother, not his father. Father's got some haircut, huh? That's his father, yeah. So is Phil kissing her in the audience? No. Okay, so Phil and I know Joyce is the mother. She's a waitress where we play golf, and we've known her for years, but she didn't brag about herself until I mentioned Honor Flight. And she said to me, "Oh, do you know my son? He helped start it." And I didn't know that. but he did pass away last year, so sorry for that. Now we're on the plane on the way down. We've eaten a nice breakfast that we picked up in the airport, and things are kind of quiet. So it's just a couple of quiet shots there. The guys relaxing and getting ready to have some fun. Arriving in Reagan.
There it is. Yeah, the water's coming. The water cannon is on.
Ladies and gentlemen, there will be a water cannon for you, so you will look out your windows and see a water cannon.
That one. You did, thank you. Go ahead. Okay, so we had 6 buses in DC. They're lined up. They were color coded. I was on a blue bus. So I took on a blue bus, blue all over the place. Green, well, there was no competition, but we had fun. A couple good pictures at the World War II Memorial. This is in the very middle with the Washington line in the background is Ernie and Newt. Howie's son, Jeff, surprised Howie by having some family members join him for an amount of time there. And I don't know you, Tom, or I took that picture, but anyway, it was a nice moment. So let's say hello to Grandpa, right?
That's my grandchildren and their mothers.
So nice for you. That's a nice memory for you. Me and Ernie. Ernie decided he wanted a wheelchair after a while, and it was a good move because that was a long day and a lot of walking. And that would, could you just go back for 1 second? I'm sorry. One of the few pictures we have with multiple, not one more back here, right there. 3 guys in it. 2 of the guys got their Navy hats on. And Ernie's got a lady in the background. It's not a funny thing on top of his head. There's a lady walking in the back. Go ahead, Connie. The group picture at the Lincoln Memorial, as you said, we had one of those like you did, like every flight does, and I think the guys got a souvenir photo at the end of that. That's nice. World War II Memorial, Franklin Roosevelt's words before the war and Harry Truman's afterwards. Would you like me to read them? I can. If you can see them, that's okay too, but they're complimentary, they're bookend statements. Did somebody say read them? Oh, okay. Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. No matter how long it may take for us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can never be repaid. They have earned our undying gratitude. America will never forget their sacrifices. President Harry S. Truman. So that's before and after. And I think what Truman said carries on and on and on. Newt in front of the Pennsylvania sign, his home turf. A nice photo of part of the World War II. A couple of the guys. It looks like Newt's giving me some instructions there. I'm sure he's probably telling me how he kept everything safe in the North Atlantic first. This is part of the gathering in front of the Lincoln Memorial. A couple of our guys in there, Jack in the front, Newt in the back. Jack was real good about wearing his mask except this one time. So that's just a moment before, a moment after the other one. And the right-hand photograph it had a small ceremony for Steve Nicoli, made a presentation to his family. I'm sorry I was so far away I couldn't hear what was being said, but I'm sure it was appreciated by the family. And the guy with the flag in his hand is a 1-star general. He's from Goshen. I do not know his name. They introduced him. I wanted to speak to him, but there were so many people around. I wanted to speak to him because my wife and I lived in Goshen for 15 years or so, and maybe we knew some of the same people. Lincoln Memorial, changing of the guard, color guard. Could you run that one again? And when he does, please listen for the tap and straight. Servicemen are not allowed to interact with the crowd, they're not allowed to make any gestures, what have you, but they develop a system or a code for special guests, which include honor flight people. When they scrape, that's a salute. That's a salute to our guys. Thank you. This, on the right, is out in front of the Vietnam Memorial. We kind of traveled all together, all separately, but happened to meet up. 3 of us happened to meet up there. I forget who took that picture, but it was nice. This is also the Arlington part of the service at the changing of the guard, and then the bus toured a little bit of the cemetery, which I'm sure a lot of you have been there. It is vast. It is, there's a dead soldier in every grave. This one's special for Howie, and he can tell you about it later, but the name in the middle, Paul Grasso, is a friend of Howie's, worked for him. And then we took off and came home. And we had a beautiful day. We had, thank you, Con. We had, we were on the road, on the go from 4:30 a.m. till 11 p.m. and nobody cared. We just had a great time. I don't have anything more in an official sense. But we did save time for some questions and answers. So if you have something about honor flight in general and how to become part of it, great. If you, oh no, the best part, our guys talking, I'm sorry, I can do that, but our guys get to talk about some of their recollections. And the order of speaking will be alphabetical. So, and you want the microphone in your chair? Come up here. I'm sorry.
Jack has a mouthpiece, that's me.
She tells me everything.
There you go. So I never knew Jack as a soldier or an airman. I just knew him as a dentist, which is what he was in the Air Force. Turn around, sweetheart. But I want you to know, he never, it seems to me that always from the very moment I met Jack and knew him, it was really clear that that time in the service was one of the most important times of his life, that it was the cornerstone of him becoming an adult and a person who knew the world. And so I have a debt of gratitude for the Air Force for helping Jack become the person he is. Jack, I have to say to you, sweetheart, Jack knows that this country has been very good to him.
Sure.
His mother came here when she was 14. She didn't get finished school. She went right to work. And he became a dentist. His family, a violinist. His family thrived. And going off to serve, he was stationed in England, just sort of put the cap on it. So we have a debt of gratitude to the country, and I'm happy that he gave something back by spending some time in England. So, and he was so excited about going on this honor flight. I said it was kind of like a kid waiting for Christmas. Is it tomorrow? Is it tomorrow? Is it tomorrow? It finally came.
Sergeant Muller? Well, excuse me, Staff Sergeant Muller.
Thank you. Mission 25 into Washington was a spectacular day for me. I had never seen all those monuments. I did get to Washington like 30, 40 years ago to the Smithsonian, but I had never seen all these other monuments. Some of them probably weren't even built yet. I think the politicians that send us to war ought to be forced to walk through all those monuments and read the names of the fallen people. It's a disgrace that war continues to go on. And it was a totally spectacular day for me. And thank you all for supporting me. Thank you, Job Right.
Thank you, Aaron. Allison Newton. Oh, absolutely. There you go.
Thank you all for coming. Newt wasn't certain his voice would hold out, so he asked me if I would please read what he'd like you to share. A brief background. My father died at the age of 33, leaving behind my mother to raise 4 boys. I was 6 years of age. My baby brother was 6 months. Fortunately, my mom was a registered nurse and became head of the emergency room at the local hospital. She did a great job, but life was always a struggle. My mother's contacts at the hospital were responsible for my getting a job as a groundsman for the electric company upon my graduation from high school in 1949. Wally Donovan, the CEO of the electric company, had been one of my mom's patients at the hospital. Going to college would not be a possibility for me. It was off to employment for me. Working with a group of kind, older, married men provided me with a society of mentors and the fatherly advice I never had. They urged me to get an education and not to marry until I did. It was through their caring influence that I decided to enroll in college in 1950. I had exceedingly rosy expectations as I did. I planned to attend Carnegie Tech, now Carnegie Mellon, major in engineering, pledge a fraternity, work part-time, and live with my older brother's family to make ends meet. However, about 6 weeks into my plan, my world disintegrated. I came to the realization that I was ill-prepared educationally for the courses I was taking. The money I desperately needed was not materializing. I had to return home to Greenville, Pennsylvania, to the job as a groundsman for the electric company. My dreams dashed, my hopes and plans were put on hold. By this time, the Korean War was amping up. 2 of my hometown buddies were drafted and sent to Korea. Sadly, they never came home. By February 1951, I realized that my own options were closing down and I would soon be drafted. I decided to enlist in the Navy. Upon taking a test, I was assigned to the Great Lakes Training Center for a year of training to be an electronics technician. After graduation, I was assigned to an icebreaker in the North Atlantic for the remainder of my 4-year term of duty. I was assured that there would be an experienced mentor aboard who would guide me in my new duties. Upon arriving, however, I learned that he had been transferred to a new and different assignment. At the age of 21, I became responsible for the operation and maintenance of radio, radar, sonar, fathometer, and Loran systems. I instantly became the frantic reader of numerous manuals and logs left by previous operators. I never experienced the horror of combat. However, the 4 tours up north were icy, cold, and demanding. At the end of the 4 years, I headed off to Penn State with the GI Bill in hand. My future was now suddenly bright. The GI Bill provided the financing I needed to survive. My time on the Icebreaker provided valuable experience and maturity for my studies in engineering. I am and remain forever grateful for the GI Bill. A little footnote. In subsequent years, when applying for a job at IBM, I got a call from an IBM manager named David Eckhart. He had my application on his desk. He wondered if I were the same Newton Ruffing who pledged his fraternity at Carnegie Tech in 1950. He was sure that there could not be two guys around with that same name. It seems that having to reluctantly leave Carnegie Tech in 1950 and having a not so common name were reasons to be remembered. By the way, I got the job.
Ready, Hal? Want to understand or?
What do you hold? You wanna hold it? Wow. This is gonna get long. Why I joined the military? I needed to get an education. I was in the 11th grade, and our guidance counselor said, why don't you go try out for this trade school in the military? So we had to, we went to Albany and we took all these tests in the 11th grade in high school. So I ended up, I knew before I got out of the 11th grade, I'd be going to Memphis and training to be an aviation structure mechanic. That's why I learned it well. They called that A school. Yeah, I'm lost. From A school, I went to a carrier or a squadron. It was VA 153 out of San Diego. And I went on the USS Hancock, a carrier. And I was there for 6 months. And I switched to the Shangri-La that went from New York. It went to New York, and that's why I volunteered. Because I wanted to be in New York, close to home, I guess, I don't know. But I didn't go to New York, I went to Mayport, Florida. We went home every once in a while, we went to New York. That was it. And then, on that carrier, we went around the Horn. Everybody know what the Horn is? That's where you come around South America. You gotta go through some kind of they put you in cages and they hose you down and make you get this big guy's belly with a whole bunch of grease on it. It was polywalk. You were a polywalk going in, but a shellback coming out. So that was good. That was the big trip around South America. Only in Rio, the water goes like this. But when you go around the Horn, the water goes like this, down the drain. Who knows why? I don't know why. I'm just a welder. All right. So then, overall, I made 6 cruises. I made one to. I made the one around the Horn. Then I made one small cruise to Caribbean. I went to Caribbean all the time, to Cuba. Med cruise, 6 months. That was kind of nice. North Atlantic. That's high waves. We get on the flight deck and the water would be coming over the deck. The flight deck's over 100 feet to the top. And the water would come right over. And you could see because it had all these joints in it. So if it was any kind of rough weather, you would see all these fluctuations on the flight deck. Nobody flew off that deck that day. Yeah, and then let me see where I am. 6 years later, I got a phone call. The honor flight. 60 years, not 6. 60 years, imagine that. Oh, I'm too young for that. Anyhow, was the greatest day of my life. I wouldn't tell anybody that. It was a hard day getting on and off that bus, you know, in skinny aisles, and we were in the back of the bus. Yeah, we had a good day, though. And you saw, I met my grandchildren and I met their parents. We went to the wall, the Vietnam Wall, and I told them about my buddy, Paul Grasso. So my son took me down there and we took a picture of it. But this guy, I taught him to weld when he was 17. He graduated from school and he worked for me. I was welding ramps for the Army. About 2,000 of them I welded there in Vietnam, so kept me busy. Then on the way home, we did a mail call. I got a stack of mail like that. I don't know where it came from. Maybe, who knows. But we were tired. It wasn't easy. The big surprise was my grandchildren. My son Jeff went as the guardian. Jeff retired from the Navy, and his brother retired from the Army. His brother was a doctor, and Jeff was electronics. They both became officers. That was it. And back to Newburgh, late, 4 o'clock in the morning, gotta get there on time. We were the first ones there, we're waiting for 1,000 people. Oh, well, we had a good time. We ate a lot of bagels, coffee, got on the bus. We were the first on the bus and the last off the bus. We went to the same seat. Yeah. Well, that's it for me, but I want to tell you all, thanks for Dave and Gretchen. They did a fine job, a wonderful job, and Connor took that terrible picture of me. That's a little tiny thing for a license. But I had it in my wallet with my wife forever. It's forever. Thank you.
Ask Howard to stay up here for just a second.
So, just finished speaking. Right now, we've had about 4 or 5 speakers about their day, their time in the military. We're about to put you on speaker and put the microphone up to the
Yeah,
phone and have
that Gretchen said my picture should be in the post office.
Gretchen's right.
Hey,
We've got your son on the phone.
hey, so sorry I couldn't be up there with you guys today. And I had hoped to do this by Zoom bridge so that I could actually see faces in the room. Boy, this honor flight program is one of the coolest things that I've ever had the opportunity to go through. So I'm a former Navy intelligence officer. Started as an E1, enlisted 10 years, and then moved my way through the ranks. And, I went to the Navy because, I knew my dad was in the Navy, but other than looking at his cruise book every single day of my life growing up, I didn't know a whole lot, right? I would see the pictures and stuff like that. And so I looked at the cruise book of him going around the world with the fighters fighting US Type 2, and I thought, man, I'm going to join the Navy, and I did. And so it was pretty cool to go down and see all of the monuments. I'd seen them all before because I have a house down here, but to be able to do it with him and with Dave and Al, it was a fun day. But to be able to do it with Dad was just especially cool. Well, when you get down there and you find out, from the minute you hit the shop right to see how these guys are treated, by God, that's the way they want to be treated. And I just had such an amazing day with all of you guys. Can't wait to see the video update. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. But I wanted to just jump in and let you know that was a pretty cool thing. If you ever get the opportunity, you should do it yourself. Something I'll never forget. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. This is back on. Okay, I know it's 3 o'clock, but we hope we saved enough time for those of you who have a question for any of the veterans, the guardians, or our honored speaker. You can pass the other microphone around the room and, okay. No questions?
1, 2.
Yeah.
I don't have a question. I just want to say on behalf of all of us here in Woodland Pond, we are so proud to have you here living with us.
Thank you. There's more to come. I know that in the audience and in our census here, there's people who are eligible to go on this flight that haven't signed up or that have signed up and their turn hasn't come yet. Like Ted said, he's on the next one. And I think Bill Stevens has got a reservation for an upcoming one as well. No more questions? Yeah.
Got a question.
Sure. You looking to meet a sailor?
When I was in high school during the war, every time we had an assembly, we sang all the songs for all the servicemen.
Did you? Good.
We went through all of that. That's my remembrance.
For the mail call, the honor flight called up about a month ahead of time and said, try to get as many letters and cards from people. And I had to keep it a secret from him the whole time, so that was tough to hide.
Anybody? Okay, well, thank you for coming. Oh, John? You gotta have that microphone, John.
You mentioned ShopRite.
Yes.
ShopRite gives like $200,000-$300,000 a year to the honor flight, and that is something else.
Also, one of Bill's slides showed several other sponsors, one of whom resides here. Your friends, the Gallaghers. Their company, Leprechaun Bus, is also a big sponsor. So, shout out to them. Okay, we just have one more piece of business. Gretchen's going to honor us on the piano again for a rendition of Happy Birthday, Newton. Come on, go on the words.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Newton. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Bill.